Part 2, The Ground Reality. Chapter 5, The Weight of the Dollar. The quote-unquote static from the television screens didn't stop at the doorstep. It bled into the kitchens and home offices of millions, settling like a fine layer of dust over the lives of people like Joe and Jane. While the candidates discussed the quote-unquote soul and the quote-unquote backbone of the nation, the people were more concerned with the math, the cold, hard arithmetic of survival in an economy that felt like it was actively trying to push them underwater. The urban apartment. Joe sat at a small, cluttered dining table in his third-floor apartment. The window was cracked open to let in the February air, but it mostly brought in the smell of damp asphalt and the distant rhythmic thumping of a neighbor's music. Spread out before him wasn't a campaign map, but a stack of envelopes that felt heavier than they looked. He rubbed his eyes, the fluorescent light above him humming in a way that usually gave him a headache. Joe worked 50 hours a week at the logistics warehouse, moving the very goods he could no longer afford to buy himself. Despite the quote-unquote resilient GDP growth the news anchors talked about, Joe was staring at a net loss. The rent on this drafty two-bedroom had climbed another 8%, and the cost of the quote-unquote value groceries he picked up on his way home had tripled in 3 years. He picked up a blue pen and circled a number on his bank statement. He was quote-unquote one flat tire away from ruin, just like the experts on the radio said. He looked over at his coat hanging by the door. On the lapel sat a small circular button. No drama. The Great Repair. To Joe, Noble Drama wasn't just a candidate. He was a prayer. When Noble spoke about the quote-unquote invisible people, Joe felt seen for the first time in a decade. He pinned the button on every morning like a piece of armor. He needed, quote-unquote, the Great Repair to be more than a slogan. He needed it to be a lifeline before the water finally closed over his head. The suburban ranch. Jane, 15 miles away, in a house with a manicured lawn and a slightly sagging porch, was performing the same grim ritual. Her ranch house was the picture of suburban stability, but inside, the air was thick with the scent of lavender-scented cleaner and unspoken panic. Jane was a nurse, hard-working, disciplined, and currently terrified. She had spent 20 years following the quote-unquote rules. She saved, she paid her mortgage on time, and she invested in her kids' futures. But by early 2026, the rules seemed to have changed without her being notified. Her utility bills had reached a level that felt like a second mortgage, and the quote-unquote market corrections she heard about on Wolf News had taken a jagged bite out of her retirement fund. She walked out to her garage, the concrete cold beneath her slippers. She pulled out a heavy plastic sign with a metal stake that bit into her palms. She marched to the edge of her lawn, the lawn she had mowed herself every Sunday for 12 years, and shoved the sign into the dirt. MUPA. Make us powerful again. Jane didn't love Ronald Trump's vulgarity. She hated the way he talked about women, and his late-night rants made her blood pressure spike. But when he talked about quote-unquote predators and quote-unquote weaklings, she didn't hear a billionaire. She heard a man who was as angry as she was. She was tired of feeling like a quote-unquote good citizen who was being taxed into poverty while the world turned into quote-unquote playground for the elite. She didn't want a partner, She wanted a brawler. She wanted someone to kick the door down so she could catch her breath. The mirror. As the sun set, casting long orange shadows across both the city skyline and the suburban cul-de-sacs, Joe and Jane both turned on their lamps. They lived in different zip codes, watched different news channels, and wore different colors. Joe believed the system was broken because of heartless greed. Jane believed the system was broken because of spineless weakness. Neither of them noticed that they were both sitting at the same type of laminate table, staring at the same type of high-interest credit card bills and feeling the same type of hollow, gnawing fear. They were the two wings of a bird that was currently flying away with their future. As they looked out their windows, they didn't see a neighbor. They saw an obstacle. They were so busy fighting over who should hold the wheel that they had noticed the car was running out of gas. And that is the end of chapter 5, The Weight of the Dollar. Stay tuned.